Gonzaga Nation SI, we're second week of the NCAA tournament. That means Gonzaga for the seventh straight years in the Sweet 16. Your two hosts, myself, Dan Dickau, alongside Adam Morrison. First off, we want to thank our sponsor, this week's sponsor, Topo Chico Hard Seltzer. We've got 4 different versions here. Can't wait to try all 4 of these. I'm sure Adam, same thing. So I've got the case at the house. I've got to drop some off to Adam later today, and maybe Adam will give us a review next week when we have our next series of recordings. But if you want Topo Chico Hard Seltzer, find them at any grocery store in the area, Total Wines. We appreciate them for being a sponsor of Gonzaga Nation SI. But Mo, let's get right into it. 7 straight Sweet 16s. We'll talk a little bit about the Portland games, the win against Georgia State, the win against Memphis. But real quick, give us how many Sweet 16s did you play in when you were at Gonzaga?
Just one. We lost in the second round both times previous to that.
And what did it? I was able to play on 2 Sweet 16 teams. One as a freshman at UW, and then my junior year at Gonzaga. It's a much different week of prep. There's a much different sense of I don't want to call it pressure, but attention from the media, and not just local media, but national media starts really kind of converging on the final 16 teams. Not that they don't on site that first week, but it's different. Did you experience the same?
Yeah, it's kind of like mini Final Fours, I guess. Obviously in this the 2 sites leading up to it, and everybody understands it's a game to go to the Elite Eight, and obviously to the Final Four. So I think the pressure is a little bit higher, and like you said, the media kind of pins down on who their darlings are and whatnot, and our favorites, and so it gets a little bit more strenuous from the media side. Your commitments and what you have to fulfill for the games coming up.
Well, let's talk quickly about the first 2 rounds in Portland. Slow starts in both games, but we'll first touch on the Georgia State. I wasn't surprised about the slow start from Gonzaga, but I was surprised at the aggressiveness of Georgia State. I thought they were a much better team than everything that I had read and the highlights that I had seen. I think the Gonzaga start was typical of 1 seed when you haven't played in about 10, 12 days. What did you see?
Yeah, I think we came out a little bit timid. We knew they were probably the best 16 seed. I know that sounds funny to everybody, but a lot of people inside the program had them pegged for like a 14 seed. And then they were playing really good basketball. I think they won 10 games in a row at the time, and it was like 12 out of 13. So they peaked at the right time of the year. So I wasn't surprised that they were formidable. Then also, like you said, having that much time off, getting used to the rims, the atmosphere, those games kind of sometimes happen that way. Now, was I surprised that it was a tie game with 28 minutes into the game? Yes. You know what I'm saying? 12 minutes left in the second half. So yes, it was 32, excuse me. So yeah, it was a little bit worrisome at some point. But I think free throws, were a huge factor. We ended up going 16 to 30. And just the overall rhythm of the game wasn't in our favor, but I wasn't surprised. I know it sounds funny, but I wasn't surprised how good Georgia State was.
Yeah, they gave Gonzaga everything they could handle. Unfortunately, they ran out of gas. They didn't have the interior to deal with Timmy and Holmgren. I mean, Holmgren's line, 19 points, 17 rebounds, 5 assists, and 7 blocks. I can't remember ever seeing that crazy of a stat line. You were calling the game courtside for the local crew with Tom Hudson. Did you get a sense he was that dominant, or did you just look down towards the end of the game and see the stat sheet and be like, wow?
No, he had his thumbprint all over that game. I mean, especially defensively inside, then controlling the paint on the glass as well. So yeah, it was very noticeable. He did a good job of just staying on his feet and contesting shots at the rim, and then obviously cleaning it up. And it kind of just allowed us to kind of settle in, even though it took a while. He made it really difficult for Georgia State to make their own type of run and then extend a lead. I think he was kind of the savior of that game. and really held us down defensively. And that's something that we, kind of had the last 6, 7 years, is being able to have bad games and rely on our defense. And it's a perfect reason why you bring in a guy like that, rim protection, obviously controlling the glass. So if you do have a poor offensive output, you can stay within the game.
Moving on to the second round game against Memphis. Penny Hardaway's their head coach. Spent a number of years, I think 14 years in the NBA, all-star, played for USA basketball, won a gold medal. He's become a tremendous coach in a short amount of time. He didn't look like he was trending towards being a coach. Were you impressed with him in the two games that you saw, first the Boise State and then the Gonzaga game?
Yeah, I mean they had a great plan for both games. I think they just overwhelmed Boise State with their athleticism and their pressure and their kind of run around with your head cut off defense. And I know it sounds funny, but they just like run and jump. They zoned a little bit. They zone press. They man press. So it made them really difficult. And then when they get into our game, they ran similar type of defense. It wasn't as aggressive because they knew that our personnel was different. It was better, obviously. But yeah, I was impressed with kind of the schemes he was trying to put. And then, like his substitution patterns were really good. I know that sounds weird, but he always had fresh guys in there and he had different matchups. Most of the guys that came off the bench for made an impact on the game in some shape or form. So he did a good job coaching.
He did a good job coaching. I think Coach Few did a tremendous job of whatever he said to the guys at halftime, because Gonzaga was down double digits. Only the second time this season they were down double digits going into halftime. But the first 4 or 5 minutes or so in the second half from Drew Timme, that might have been the best stretch I have seen from a Gonzaga player that I can remember. What did you see?
Yeah, I echo what you're saying. Like, I think he just kind of put his head down and decided that he was gonna, make or break that game. And if it's his last game, in theory, that he was gonna go out swinging. And so he just, tried to go at him every single time. There was like 6 straight possessions. I think we threw the ball to him, and I think he scored on 4 and then assist on 1. So 5 out of the 6 times we got a basket. It was just a tremendous run. And I think he did a good job of getting deeper post touches as well. In the first half, Memphis did a good job of, kind of bracketing him on the weak side if he got in a pick and roll situation, and then picking him up high early in 3/4 and fronting. So then every time he got his catches in the first half, it was 2 outside, right? And especially with back to the basket. So yeah, he did a good job of just putting his head down and delivering like he's supposed to. And, it was one of the all-time, moments and like for a big in Gonzaga history, I guess. Just that stretch, I think he scored 11 straight himself, and it, obviously got the crowd into it and got us back in the game.
Yeah, the crowd got into it, that's for sure. Uh, Gonzaga fans have traveled well over the last 20 some years with this run in the NCAA tournament, but that stretch when they finally got within a one possession game in the second half, I thought the roof of the Rose Garden was going to come off. It was that loud. How impressed were you with the crowd? Because I thought they were great.
Yeah, no, but they finally had something to cheer about. I mean, it was dud in the first half. So yeah, they did a good job of getting behind the guys, and the guys did a good job of picking up the pace. I mean, obviously Drew's second half was fantastic, but I thought Rasheer and Andrew changed the complexion of that game because they just played faster, and there was a lot of possessions where it was basically like 4-on-4 or 3-on-3 where they just outletted deep, and those guys just went downhill as fast as they can and just made it like a one-on-one game, and then make your play because Memphis was picking up deep man to man. So them pushing the pace really got us going. So yeah, it was, I think those 2 guys, and then obviously Drew, but I thought we also got to give credit to Chet. I mean, I think he won his battle against Duran, another outstanding freshman who's going to be a pro. I think Duran had 7 points on 3 of 11. Chet went 9 points, 9 rebounds, and I think with 4 blocks, but he kind of, stifled that kid early in his, impact on the game. He's their leading scorer. So I thought Chet, even though it wasn't a wow game, but it was also like he won his battle against another NBA prospect. And, so that also helped us get a win.
Yeah, Chet's plus minus, I believe it was 18 or 19. The only Gonzaga player to be in double figures plus minus, and I would agree with you. I thought Andrew Nemhart playing 40 minutes. He had a couple turnovers, but how are you not going to have turnovers against their pressure when you play 40 minutes? And Rasir Bolton, he's been the unsung hero so many different times this year. And the fact that he did it in his first NCAA tournament game, or excuse me, first tournament weekend, speaks volumes. Because here's a kid who started at Penn State, went to Iowa State, two really bad programs essentially over the last couple of years. Just wanted a chance to be a part of a good team, and he's made the most of it in Spokane with the Zags.
Yeah, no, he's been great for us. He gives us a different element. Offensively, he can shoot the three with a quick release, but he's also really fast downhill. He's got a nice float game. I think defensively he gives guys issues because of his quickness. He's just another secondary ball handler to Andrew when there's pressure situations, because he played point guard at Iowa State. But he also averaged, I think, 17 on the season. So like he could score the basketball as well. So he's been fantastic. And it was nice to see a kid that's a good player finally get an opportunity in the NCAA tournament.
It's time for our question of the day, brought to you by Northern Quest and Epic Sports Bar. The madness is here and bigger than ever at Epic Sports Bar, with food and drink specials, prize giveaways, and more all tournament long. Grab your bracket and post up at the best tournament spot in town. Details at northernquest.com. Mo, the question comes today, I'll let you answer this, from Josh Boone on Instagram. How big of a role will physicality and defense play the rest of the tournament?
I think it's going to be huge. I mean, obviously, we're a very good offensive team, but our defense is it's not the best in the country, but it's also not the worst. I'm sure we're in the top 10 in a lot of categories. The rim protection of Chet Holmgren is going to help. The speed and quickness of Andrew and Rasir on the wings, and then you can mix in like a Hunter Salas as well. And then I thought Anton has played well defensively all season long. So yeah, it's going to be a factor. It always is. You've seen the game last night with Arizona, the refs swallow the whistle, and there was a few times in the Memphis game that they did the same thing. So I think our guys are geared up for it, understand that, and hopefully can play through some of those situations, but also we can deliver, those type of blows defensively as well, because we're, pretty dynamic.
Well, it was nice to see a physical game early in the tournament, as opposed to last year where that physical game started with UCLA in the Final Four, and then obviously Baylor was very physical in the title game. So, Mo, I appreciate you joining. We've got another episode coming up later this week, but thanks again to our sponsors, Topo Chico, Hard Seltzer, and Epic Sports Bar at Northern Quest. For Gonzaga Nation SI, he's Adam Morrison. I'm Dan Dickau.